What's up, Transit? Hey, my name is Will, and if you guys are anything like me, these past few weeks were probably pretty crazy. And part of the reason is that there's so much unknown. There's so many questions swirling around in our heads. Maybe you're thinking, when am I gonna get to see my friends again? Or when can I rejoin my sports team? Or how long is this gonna last? And the truth is that we don't have answers to all those questions, and that can be scary. So we thought it was important for us to stop and look at some examples of some other people who have faced uncertainty before and see what we can learn from them. So today, we're starting a new series called Into the Unknown. Now the truth is that the unknown is uncomfortable. Anytime we face uncertainty, it makes us nervous and it's uncomfortable. But if we're honest with ourselves, there's also something really exciting about stepping into something new or stepping into the unknown. I mean, part of what makes something an adventure is the fact that you don't know what's going to happen next. And that feeling of excitement that you get is actually the feeling of you overcoming your fear of the unknown. Now, the problem is that right now there's so much unknown that it's becoming harder and harder to overcome that fear. I think it's safe to say that all of us are a little afraid of the future right now. All of us are a little nervous about what's going to happen next, and I get it. Now, more than likely, everything's gonna be fine. More than likely, everything is gonna go back to normal. In other words, this isn't gonna last forever. But I understand that right now, in the middle of this uncertainty with all of these questions, that's hard. Because anytime there's an unknown, we're nervous. I mean, it seems like everyone around us is nervous right now. Our parents and our government and our friends might all be experiencing anxious thoughts or fears, and that's normal. So in this series, we wanted to provide a space for you guys to talk about some of those things, to talk about some of the fears that you're experiencing and some of the things that you're nervous about. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at the life of a guy named Joshua. Now, Joshua faced a lot of uncertainty in his life. He faced a lot of unknown. He was tasked with leading a group of Israelite people into a new land, into an uncertain future with new challenges and new rules and regulations. And Joshua had never done anything like this before. But about 40 years before, Moses had. Moses had led a group of people out of Egypt into an uncertain future, and they learned a lot. It's safe to say that they didn't handle the situation very well. See, they leaned into their fear and they let it go unchecked. And when you do that, your fear becomes worry, and your worry can become doubt. And so when Moses hands off leadership to Joshua, God comes and gives some advice in the form of a command to Joshua. And he says this, he says, "Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord is with you wherever you go." Now, this wasn't the only time that God said this to Joshua. He actually says it 2 other times in 2 other books of the Bible, which tells us that Joshua needed reminding, that even though he was strong, at times he was still afraid, and that's normal. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is the choice to trust in the midst of your fear. And that's what God was calling Joshua to do, and that's what he calls us to do. But being strong and courageous is great, but it's really the second half of this verse that I want us to pay attention to. Because this is the why. This is why we can be strong and why we should be courageous. See, this says, "For the Lord is with you wherever you go." See, there's something comforting about stepping into uncertainty when you know you're not alone. When I was in 7th grade, my parents moved and I had to start at a new school during the middle of the school year. So not at the beginning, during the middle, once people have already made their friends and sports teams had already started. And if you've ever done that, you know that that's really hard. I was really nervous and I had a lot of questions going through my head. I was thinking, what if I don't make any friends? What if nobody likes me? What if I don't like my teachers? And I had all these questions and I was so nervous. I remember my parents dropped me off and they said goodbye really loudly, and I'm walking down the hallway and somebody yelled my name from across the hallway. It turns out it was my friend who was on my baseball team, and I had no idea that he went to this school. But he invited me to eat lunch with him and with his friends that day. I just remember all of my fear and my nervousness just started to go away. Because in the middle of the unknown, I knew that I wasn't alone. See, the same is true for you and for me. God made a promise back then that he would not leave his people, that he wouldn't leave his disciples, and he's made the same promise to you and to me. through his Holy Spirit that he will be with us. I don't know what next week is going to look like. I don't know what tomorrow is going to look like, but I do know this, that the Lord is with you wherever you go. And because of that, we can be strong and we can be courageous. But remember, just like Joshua, being strong doesn't mean that you won't be afraid. You might be afraid of spending the next several weeks around your annoying little brother, or you might be afraid of just being bored, or you might have heard your parents talking about money, and that makes you nervous. Whatever it is, we want to encourage you to go and talk about those things with your group. Because when you start to talk about those fears, they start to lose their power. Because chances are there's somebody in your group, or maybe even your leader, who's gone through something similar, and they can walk through this with you. So talk about those things with your group. And then I want you guys to think about this question. The question is this: what is your biggest fear about the future? Think about that question and then join your virtual small groups. We'll see you guys next week.